All right, now to this story in this morning's Wall Street Journal. Stocks continue their steady march higher, notching milestones not seen in more than 20 years, and many investors see few obstacles to the seemingly endless run. That headline comes as a USA Today Suffolk University poll finds Americans are increasingly optimistic about the nation's economy. For the first time during Trump's presidency, a majority of Americans, 53%, say that the economy is in a recovery. But despite this, 64% also say the country is on the wrong track, up 21 points since the beginning of the year, and the highest for Trump yet. Also in the poll, 57% said they want the next Congress to stand up to President Trump. That includes 1 in 5 Republicans. 33% said they want him to cooperate.
You know, Nick, there's always this belief that people vote their pocketbook and their pocketbook only. That certainly happens when the economy's doing poorly. Right now, you're actually seeing the stock markets continue to rise. That's certainly positive for a lot of Americans and a lot of business owners. But you're seeing the right track, wrong track go in the wrong direction. I remember 1994, Bill Clinton had a pretty strong economy, and yet his Democratic Congress got wiped out in the 94 midterms. Strong economy does not always mean that the president in power does well politically in midterm elections. But I think the most important part of those polls, it explains why business owners, why a lot of Republicans, why people still are putting up with Donald Trump. Because they're saying, hey, the economy's better now than it's ever been before. I'll just keep my head down, turn off the TV, and make money.
It's a good number for Donald Trump. And you have to give the president credit for one thing here. He has this magical ability to make people optimistic about the economy, on their optimism and their sense of where it's going beyond where it actually is. So we see a divergence more and more between people's thinking about the economy and where actual jobs are. But look, I think he will ultimately be graded on how things are for people and sort of the extent that things are getting better. It's going to insulate him from his own problems that he creates and the divisions that he creates to some extent.
Joe, it's interesting. You're pointing the economy, and I know a lot of, even in the zip code that we live in here, affluent people who begrudgingly voted for Donald Trump because they said to themselves, you know what, screw it, I'm going to make more money, he's going to not screw up my taxes. I can live with him. And I think now, a year into this presidency, a big chunk of those people are willing to possibly sacrifice a buck or two from their pocketbooks because they go, well.
You've met those people?
I actually have met some of those people.
Because people I talk to, the business owners I talk to say, full steam ahead, baby. The market's doing great. I'm making more money than ever before.
It's like Republicans walking the plank.
We knew he was a little wacky when we voted for him, but this is exactly what we voted.
The standard problem is the swing Democrats. I'm seeing a little bit of them who early on said, screw it. You know what? I'm not voting for Hillary. Screw it. I'm going to make more money. Yes, Republicans, but those swing Democrats that moved over, I see some of them they're wavering because there's a human.
I think there's something to that, Donnie. I was actually in a bowling alley in Macomb County a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, me too.
Actually,
were you?
Yeah, I was there.
Mika and I are always.
Were you all there?
Yeah, that's what
all the time.
I met one of these guys. Yeah. Jolly fellow, had voted for Barack Obama twice and then voted for Trump. I took his number. We talked, about he felt that this Congress was obstructing the president, but on some of these cultural issues, these swing voters were never comfortable with the president. His tweets, his comments about women, these things always made them uncomfortable. And I called him after the NFL stuff, and he was angry. Yeah. And I think some of these swing people who, yes, they want him because he's a businessman, because he'll do things for the economy, are turned off by what he may be doing to tensions in this country, cultural tensions.
Because they felt, he's just doing that to get elected. That's our guy.
But there are millions of people in this country who voted for him despite thinking he was not fit for the presidency. That is like the central mystery and conundrum of American politics right now. And it makes me wonder about a lot of these approval
difference between unfit and temperament. They voted, clearly they said he didn't necessarily have the temperament. That didn't automatically mean unfit.
But again, Donald Trump did not run. It wasn't a referendum on Donald Trump.
Correct.
This election was a referendum on somebody who'd been in government for 40 years. And if you look at the honest, David Ignatius, if you look at the honest and trustworthy numbers of Donald Trump, they were horrific. The only person in American politics that had worse, honest, and trustworthy numbers was Hillary Clinton. You can talk about approval ratings. His approval ratings were horrific. So were Hillary Clinton's. I mean, we're sort of in a fog, still trying to figure out exactly why Donald Trump won. And it's hard to answer that question because the person he ran against had 40 years of political scar tissue on her when people went to the voting booth.
You know, Joe, one of the great insights of the super economist John Maynard Keynes was that economic life is driven by what he called animal spirits. He couldn't come up with a better phrase than the animal spirits. And sometimes people have them. They just want to buy. They want to invest. They think things are going to be better if they're business owners, and sometimes they don't. For whatever reason, we could debate it, you know, for the next hour. Donald Trump has aroused those animal spirits in people who are buying in our securities markets and maybe out in the real economy. And that is the engine of economic growth. You can be worried about the future. You don't like his policies. You don't understand this or that. But that funny thing, that kind of raw desire to invest after years of not doing so, maybe that's what we're seeing.
All right, still ahead on Morning Joe, former Vice President Joe Biden receives an award yesterday that is very near to my heart, one named after my father.
Wow.
We'll play for you some of his remarks at the ceremony, including about the time he told Vladimir Putin to his face that he had no soul. Also
Putin's
ahead
response, by the way, Mika, priceless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also ahead this morning, former Defense Secretary under President Clinton, William Cohen, joins us. He was there last night. Plus, 2 members of Congress calling for a ban on those now infamous bump fire stocks, Democrat Amy Klobuchar and Republican Carlos Curbelo. But first,
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.